when I say that the right is doing more to fight back against this problem than the left is. This is why. As Jen often likes to say, don't mess with the red team. Don't mess with people that are armed. Don't mess with people that actually know how to fight back. And one of those prime examples happened just the other day when Tyler Oliviera sat down for an interview with Tucker Carlson, and they do not mince words about the genocide. In fact, they don't mince words about the supremacist angle that exists here in the United States.
As a taxpayer, it's like, we're going to take your money. If you question it, you're anti-Semitic, and we hate you.
What was anti-Semitic about it?
The ADL said it harkened back to anti-Semitic stereotypes of them being a drain on society or something like that, when it's all statistically corroborated. I'm not pulling these out of my ass. These are welfare stats I was quoting, and then I would go to the direct source asking these people, what do you do for a living? How many kids do you have? How do you afford your kids? Are you on welfare?
Now, whether anybody wants to hear it or not, there are certain advantages that certain cultures have in this country. And the Zionists, the Jewish culture in particular, has a huge advantage. Financially, politically, infrastructurally wise, they have a huge advantage. And this is a prime example of that. And Tyler Oliviera, whether you like him or not, did his job as a journalist. You could say he was not a yellow journalist, but he definitely went into this with the intent of, causing controversy. Well, controversy he caused, but there is a lot of truth there. And that's why when the ADL gets involved, when Mr. Green Baldblatt gets involved and has a problem with what you're doing, well, it would seem to me that he must have struck a nerve. Did millions of people see his expose about how things operate in certain Jewish communities? Yes, he did. And they're not pulling any punches. I wish that there was a populist left attitude about that, the way that they go for the throat. But as I said, the capitulation to the Democratic Party is the last remnants, because the one thing we've seen, the one thing that is clear as day, there is little to no capitulation anymore from the America First movement to the Republican Party. And that's where the change is going to come from. You cannot capitulate to the Democratic Party. You have to make them think that they can't win without you. And if they choose to lose without you, then you go somewhere else. That's why Butch Ware was running. You have more power than you realize. You just have to act on it.
How is that anti-Semitic? And why do they get their own brand of their own proper nounage of racism? That never made sense to me.
I agree.
It's odd, right?
It is odd.
It's weird, yeah.
It is odd. I haven't thought too much about that, but I think you make a fair point. How is bigotry against one group different from bigotry against any group? And of course, if you believe in absolute standards, it's not. It's all the same. It's all variety is the same thing. But if you believe that only one group should be immune from criticism, then you're not against racism. Of course, you're an advocate of racism.
Sure.
Right. You're arguing a kind of supremacy.
Yeah, Jewish supremacy.
Yeah, or any kind. I mean, any kind. If you can attack
in this case,
anyone but white Episcopalian men. Everyone else is fair game except me.
What other group can you not discuss, though, right?
I don't know.
You can disrespect Christianity without any flack. You can disrespect Islam legally. They might kill you for it. And seemingly with Jews, or at least some of these groups of Jews, the legal affair may begin. You might get deplatformed or pulled off some sites.
So what happened? Okay, so what happened? So you do this video in New York at Kiryas Joel. What kind of reception does it get?
The Americans are happy. Thank you for calling this out. The locals who live in nearby communities, thank God someone has finally come here and spoken out about this.
Oh, the locals have strong feelings about it.
Oh, they're perpetually grateful to me because no one has ever touched this because seemingly it's radioactive.
Now, why is it radioactive? Why is it such a big problem? Because it turns out, and we've covered this before, one of the things that ends up happening in so many cases when certain Jewish communities, primarily Zionist, end up taking over communities, They take over everything. They take over the entire infrastructure. They take over the city council. They take over the planning boards. They buy up all the properties, and they turn them into their own communities. Now, Lakewood, New Jersey, Kirsten Noel, New York. I mean, this just happens to be a couple of examples, but they're in a lot of places. This is not an unheralded circumstance. Now, they don't have the population or the ideology to dominate nationwide. However, if they're strategic in terms of where they are dominating, they put themselves in a position where they can pull the levers of power. And that's what they've done. And in New York and New Jersey in particular, those are two places where they've done it. They've done it in Massachusetts. They've done it in Michigan. They've done it in Illinois. There's California. Look at what we just showed. This is how it is. I know the truth hurts, but the truth must be told.
If you have any political ambitions, they die overnight if you talk about this. This is a strong voting bloc. And on top of that, they're leveraging the generational guilt of the Holocaust. You're anti-Semitic if you oppose any of what they're doing. So I was a hero to the local communities that live nearby.
Just to be clear, the Holocaust was not committed by Americans. We were actually the people who ended it, I think.
You can't make this up, Tucker.
And he's right. For one thing, it does take courage to do this, to go into communities and cover what a lot of people are either afraid to cover or don't want to cover. But Tyler Oliviera showed one of the most important aspects of why I am, first of all, I can never be a Republican, ever. But I have a lot of libertarian leanings. And one of them is when it comes to our constitutional rights regarding the separation of church and state. I do believe that our First Amendment is our most important. If we do not have the ability to separate those who simply believe something, that's the thing about faith. You can't prove it. It's just a belief. And when people say that this land was promised to us 3,000 years ago, well, we know that that's bullshit, obviously. But just the same is true when it comes to faith. It doesn't mean it's not true, but you can't prove it. And in this world, by that measure, you must separate the church and the synagogue and the mosque and anything else from the state. And in the case of these communities, they are riding the backs of the state through their religion. This is a clear violation of our Constitution, and it happens all the time. And both parties are guilty, but the Republicans are worse, bar none. They made a conscious effort to get in bed with the Christian right all those years ago through Jerry Falwell in conjunction with Ronald Reagan, and we have seen the results. They are really bad. And they gave way too much power to people who should never have had it. And this goes for both sides. But Oliviera is absolutely right about this. So keep in mind that when we discuss this problem, it's not about Jews, but it is about a portion, sizable as it may be, of the Jewish population that is involved in this. And it is a problem. And mincing words is not going to make it better. Dealing with the problem, ripping off the Band-Aid is how you deal with it. The loudest voices in the room who speak out against this are primarily Jewish because they understand the implication of what it does to them. That's why Jen speaks out. That's why Katie Halper speaks out. That's why Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, and many others speak out. Miko Peled. It is imperative that we continue to put the pressure on. And if that means cross-pollinating with people that we don't agree with, it is imperative that we do that. So, tip of the hat as always. And Tucker does a great job. He's a smartass, but he's my kind of smartass. And Tyler Oliviera obviously pissed off a lot of people. He did. And he did a great job.